Alrighty, we are recording this workshop on July 1st. We have about 6 days left until we wrap up June. So a couple of you had commented in the chat box, just giving us a little heads up as to how was your month of the horse so far. If you tuned into last month's free talk, I gave everybody a heads up that June was and is, until it shifts, June was a very important month because it is a preview to 2026. So hopefully all of you did your spiritual homework and took a step back to just be a neutral observer to understand the energy, what kind of mood you're in, what type of interactions you're having, so that it gives you a little bit more insight to what to expect in the coming year. So if you want to share any more, feel free to use the chat box and I'll get to that in a second. So again, you can check out the YouTube channel for all of our previous talks. I'm going to jump right in because we have a lot to cover in this month. So let's dive into the feng shui first. This new month will run from July 7th until August 7th. And again, there are multi-layers to feng shui. And in these talks, we can only cover the monthly dynamic of how the energy moves and shifts and changes in our physical environment. Obviously, if you're looking more to have something done more comprehensively, then that is a separate, more private consultation. So let's see what's up with this month. Again, just to recap, these are the 9 types of feng shui energy that takes a visit, okay, comes to visit us every month, every year, or it sets the foundational tone for the property that we're in, okay, so 1 through 9. And again, 1 and 9 are considered the prosperous energies. 2 and 5 are considered the worst type of energy. And so the rule of thumb is we always, always, always cure all the negative stars. And we don't always can activate positive energy without proper consultations. So this is the flying star chart for the month of the goat. And so you can take a snapshot of this screen. And again, I would probably advise you to set all of your cures in place. The latest may be July 5th, July 6th. So whatever cure objects that you have during the month of June, it's okay to start pulling those out, cleansing them, throwing them away, or purchasing new ones. And you really just want to have all of this stuff in place before the new month. I generally, for me personally, at the ranch and in my home, I try to have these cures a day or two prior to the beginning of the next cycle. Okay, so I'm not going to dive into that too much because like I said, we have a lot to cover, but we do want to focus on the 2 worst, okay, type of energy. Number 5, which is the misfortune star, is going to be locating in the southeast sector of our home. All right. And the misfortune star is actually going to pair up with 1. And 1 generally is considered a positive star. But for this month, in the goat month that's coming up, we actually cannot benefit from that good energy because that misfortune star, number 5, is going to hinder the progress that 1 has generated in the past. So we definitely want to place a cure there. Second, which is number 2, related to the sickness star, is going to move into the north side. Now, a lot of properties in Arizona particularly are a north-facing property. So if you have a north-facing home, then you know that the sickness star is going to pay a visit. And this particular sickness is going to pair up with number 7, which is related to the metal element. And so that can affect our upper respiratory or breathing organ issues. And those are things like the lungs, the orifices of the body, the skin, the teeth. So think about cold, cold, flu, asthma, bronchitis, eczema, which affects the skin, right? So we just want to make sure that we have the cure for that. And the cure for sickness is always this 6 metal coins. Again, relative to the size of your home, generally one string of 6 metal coins is plenty enough to address a single family residence. Obviously, if you have a super luxury property that's like, 10,000 square foot, we need to discuss that separately. Or obviously, if you're addressing a much larger commercial space, such as a hotel, right, or a casino or a restaurant, then of course that we will have to have, a separate conversation with that. But the basics is most people have a small or regular size single family home or an apartment, a condo, townhouse, or whatever, one string of 6 metal coins somewhere in the front side of facade of your home is appropriate, particularly if you are a north facing. Now, if you're not a north facing home, you still have an area inside your home that is in the north side. So it's best to have a floor plan. When we do an actual feng shui evaluation, we have to work with a blueprint or a proper floor plan. And, this is how we normally would dissect the floor plan so that we can more accurately observe what rooms are really impacted in that particular location. So if you have a floor plan, I suggest you kind of map it out this way so that you can properly identify and say, okay, maybe it's the spare bedroom, maybe it's the kitchen, maybe it's the dining room. But every room or rooms, areas affected in the north this coming month is going to have the sickness star. So again, relative to what that location might be, if your bedroom or your kitchen, your living room, your front door, basically the important areas in your home are in the north, that means you're more vulnerable to that, particularly if you're sleeping there, because sleep is about restoration, right? Recovery and for healing. If it's a kitchen, obviously that's related to our overall health and well-being. So when you have a sickness star there, that's usually when you feel a little bit off physically in your body. Maybe you're more fatigued. Maybe you just don't feel as focused. Maybe your immune system is a little bit disturbed. So again, the energy in our environment has a direct relationship to how we are also responding. Okay. Then the second part, which is the misfortune star, like I said, is in the southeast side. So, this is an example of a map of homes that are facing towards southeast. So a lot of these homes, again, it's not so much like these homes, because these homes are probably facing more northwest. These homes are facing north, right? Oh. These homes are facing south. This is southeast. So if you have a southeast facing home, you also need to make sure you cure the front of your house. Remember, the front facing of the house is like the front side of the body. It's like the face of the person, and it's like the mouth on the head, right? So this is what kind of energy you are welcoming into your face, into your body, into your home. And so the cure for that is the 6 metal rod wind chime. Again, usually hanging a wind chime outside is not too weird, okay, because it's pretty normal to have wind chimes hanging out. Now, if you don't have a southeast facing home, that's fine, but you still also need to do the same thing like you did and map out what rooms or areas in my home. This is a restaurant, so this is a business. What areas are being impacted in the southeast side? So misfortune star, we don't play with the we don't play with the misfortune star. Misfortune has a very dramatic name, but basically it's the harbinger for, tragedies, accidents, headaches, hardships, unwanted stress, chaos, like all of the above, any of the above. Again, it depends on your current situation. It depends on your circumstances. And it also does play into where you're at in your BaZi chart. Because as a reminder to those, maybe if you've been following me for a while, but maybe you're new to this, we always say that BaZi is like your immune system. And if your BaZi is strong and in a good cycle and it's healthy, then you can withstand a little bit of bad feng shui. All right. It's not going to completely derail your progress. The problem comes in is when your BaZi chart is under clash, in a penalty, or you're entering into a cycle that's not necessarily your most favorable element. Okay. Sometimes we say that's bad luck. Okay. So that means your immune system is compromised. Okay. Then if you are sleeping, eating, working in an area that has weak or negative feng shui energy, then of course the consequence of that is going to be much more serious. Okay. So that's why we never do feng shui without BaZi. All right. So just kind of remember the order of things. As much as we want to take care of our personal energy so that we can make good choices and have healthier habits, we also have to understand that our environment has an influence on us, and it goes hand in hand with everything else that I outlined. So if you're interested in a feng shui evaluation, we can talk. We can schedule a 15-minute discovery call. It's very, very comprehensive. And again, it includes the BaZi reading, and it includes an additional year's support. It's very, very involved, but we can talk about that separately if you are curious. Okay, let me see who's making comments. Yes, Stephanie had a question. Are these, I'm assuming, the feng shui in addition to the yearly? Absolutely. I go back to, I think you came in a little bit later, but I think most people don't mind if I just, there's layers to feng shui. You have the base chart, which is like the birthday of the house. Then you have the annual star. Then you have the monthly star. It's no different than your BaZi chart. Your BaZi chart has a base, and every year has an influence. Every 10 years, which is your luck cycle, also has an influence, just like every day and every month has an influence. And so everything is layered, all right? It's like a giant puzzle. All right, so let's talk about July. Again, on July 7th, we will transition into the month of the goat, and this is a yin water goat month. So let's dissect what yin water is. Yin water is the element on top. That's why we call it the heavenly stem. And yin water is compared to like a drop of water or like a mountain dew, okay? And people who are born on a yin water day, so if your day master is yin water, we typically describe them as quite spiritual. They're wise because they belong to the water element. They're also very particular kind of people. They're very picky. They're not as forthcoming. So very opposite from other elements like yang fire, where you ask them, how are you? Yin water people are very coy. They just tell you what you need to know, but they're not necessarily the oversharing kind of people. Because they're also a drop of water, very different from the ocean, right? So ocean has a very big, dynamic energy. Yin water is a little bit more gentle, so they're able to adapt because they can fit in small places. They can go into different crevices, and you wouldn't even know that there's a drop of water there. And so they do have the ability to portray a kind of chameleon personality. They can play different roles. I think in Western astrology, you may say that that's like the Gemini. I don't know anything about Western like astrology, but I guess Gemini kind of has like two faces. There's two sides to them. One aspect they portray in public, one aspect they portray in private. So that's very similar, okay, quality to yin water. And from the body's perspective, okay, it's related to the kidneys and the urinary bladder. You can also extend this to the legs, like the lower extremities of the body, including the fertility part of the body. both for female and for male. So these are just some popular, well-known yin water people. Interestingly enough, a lot of like spiritual leaders, kind of guides are also yin water people. So just very interesting how that kind of lines up. So let's talk about the goat. All right, the goat is the animal sign. That's why it's called the earthly branch. An earthly branch is always at the bottom. And we are in the 6th month of the year, of the snake year. I've been seeing a lot of posts today like, oh, we're already halfway through the year, blah, 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 forgetting that that is based on the Gregorian calendar, okay? But energetically, from a BaZi perspective, based on the solar calendar, we're actually just barely starting the 6th month of the year. This is still the yang season, okay? The yang season is spring and summer. But the goat month will get us closer to the very end of the summer season, okay? But it still belongs to the summer season. Now, the goat itself is a yin earth element, very much like a garden. Don't think of the goat like the cute goat picture that I showed you in the very cover of this slide. It's not cute, okay? And it should not be translated as the physical manifestation of the animal that you see on earth, okay? Nothing to do with that. In fact, the goat is considered the strongest and most powerful earth element sign. It's stronger than the dragon. And we know what the dragon's all about because we just came out of it in 2024, okay? So it's not an element we take lightly, all right? Because its strength and magnitude is quite powerful and very, very jarring. And you'll see in the examples as we get into it, like why we take the goat sign very seriously. Excuse me. From a spiritual sense, earth is connected to yi, which is translated to mean thought and intention. So July is a fantastic month to kind of just recalibrate and reset and ask yourself like, okay, what's my intention so far? Has my intention shifted from the start of the year, from the start of the fire season, have I not set any intentions? Or I can set a separate intention just for July. So I think that's a beautiful way of kind of aligning your thoughts and your goals and your meditation and your action toward just really asking yourself, what is my intention? Now, July is going to conjure, okay, or trigger a lot of confusion. And confusion, it can be disorienting, right? Like, I'm confused. I don't know if I should take this job, right? I don't know if it's the best time for me to sell my house. But confusion goes beyond discerning whether I should do A or I should do B, right? Because every day we're making choices. Should I have coffee or should I have tea? Should I skip lunch? Should I have lunch? So I'm not talking about the day-to-day stuff. I'm talking about the deepest part of yourself where you're trying to get clarity on that deep desire that you have. And going into the month of July is just assessing to say, how much progress have I made in that desire, right? And for a lot of people, it's interesting because the last, I would say, 4 or 5 days, so that would be the last week of June, a lot of the clients I've been speaking with during that time, they were kind of gung-ho, like they have a lot of enthusiasm, and zeal coming into the snake year. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And suddenly during like towards the end of May and June, something happened, one thing, or another, whether it's a hiccup, an unexpected thing, or a shift in direction. But all of that kind of contributed to their kind of mental acrobat of like, wait a minute, now I'm confused. Like now I don't even know if that's what I want. And so that's why I think seeking clarity and overcoming confusion is very much tied to your intention. Okay, so we'll kind of get into that a little here. So going to the emotions related to the 5 elements, we know that water is related to fear, which is anxiety, worry, uncertainty. And earth is about faith, confidence, trust, meditation, It's all the goodies, right? When we're grounded, we are secured, we're stable, we know what we want, right? We're present, etc. Well, in the 5 elements cycle, because earth and water, we call that in a controlling cycle or a destructive cycle, meaning they fight, okay? So the way that I would interpret it, it's kind of like muddy water. So instead of water, because the flip side of fear, right, is wisdom. It's clarity, right? It's knowledge. Remember, everything in but in Chinese philosophy is the duality of things, right? So instead of feeling very clear about, oh yeah, this is what I want for my life, and this is how I'm going to go for it. Suddenly, when we enter into the month of July, that very, very powerful earth element is going to muddy up that water. And so that's why it suddenly feels like we're losing a grip on our clarity and the rise of confusion is occurring. So it's just a state of mind obscured by perhaps even negative emotions and unresolved issues, okay? So if you're feeling some of that or not, but if you do end up feeling, but this isn't just for you, okay? This is for your spouse, your children, your parents, right? Because every single one of you have relationships. So if it's not you, it might be somebody you know. Just know that the month of the goat will kind of trigger this muddy water situation. And so if you have dirty water, what do? You got to purify it, right? And so in Chinese metaphysics, we say the best way to kind of clear out the earth from the water are things like acts of service. And acts of service is doing something for someone else. And I think we've gotten to a place in our Western life where everything is self-care and self-love and boundaries and my world, my world, your world kind of a thing. And that's fine. There's a time and place for it. But acts of service is very helpful, particularly because it gives you a greater sense of purpose. It allows you to step out of your own, right? Instead of being so self-absorbed into your own stuff, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Healthy acts of service can actually help purify and remove some of the anxieties and the negative emotions that you might be doodling with. And releasing negativity is not so much about like dismissing or ignoring or what I call delulu or that toxic positivity, like your house is on fire and you're like, oh, no, it's great, it's fine. That's what I call the toxic positivity. Releasing negativity just simply means incorporating different practices for you to stay in a state of grace and gratitude. And it's an active thing, you don't just state your gratitude and then be done with it. It's one of those things that you have to continuously practice. And a lot of times for example, like in Christianity, people experience consolation and desolation. And consolation is like this, it's an inner peace, okay? Inner peace meaning regardless of what's happening in my environment, regardless of the hardships and the confusion and the challenges and obstacles I might be experiencing, I know in my heart that I'm peaceful, I'm at ease, I'm one, I'm sure of myself, right? And sometimes if you're in the middle of a clash, right? For some of you might be in a clash year, you're making changes. Sometimes you might be making changes that create a lot of chaos, right? And disruption. But in your heart of hearts, in the deepest part of your soul and your spirit, you know it's the right thing. And so you feel that inner peace, even though your external world is like turned upside down. So that's the definition of consolation. Well, desolation is obviously the opposite of that. It's like being in a dry desert. You feel nothing, you feel completely disconnected, you hear nothing, you don't even feel the movement of spirit. Well, the saying is, it's when you are in desolation, that is actually the most important and the best time to pray, right? It's not, we don't just pray when things are going great. We don't just list out our gratitude because we have a lot of things to be grateful for. In fact, the act and the practice of gratitude should be amped up when we are feeling disconnected or we're experiencing emotional turmoil. So that's what I mean by release negativity, and also to help promote that inner peace. So just a few things to meditate on right now. How are you focusing on your core values? And everybody's different. I had this conversation with a client the other day, and she was very, very clear about her core values. And I said to her, wow, you are 10 steps ahead most people, because there are many, many people who have sat in front of me and I would ask them what their core values are, and they wouldn't know what it is. Okay. Or they would just stare at me like, what do you mean? Okay. So how are you focusing on your core values? The core value is a fundamental thing that drives all of our yeses and nos, right? All of our decision in our life. And so this is just a good place in the goat month to just kind of go, you know, what are my core values? What do I believe in, you know, that is important in my life? Have you created space for reflection? Okay, this is, again, I make emphasis on this a lot stronger during certain periods of time. And the last time I talked about this kind of like with more zest was in April, because April was the dragon month. Okay, so here we are coming into the goat month. A lot of kids are out of school, families are traveling, vacay time, la la la, playtime. But I think it's really important not to get out of your routine, particularly if creating space for reflection and meditation have been helpful to you, is to continue to stay in that consistent state. Again, are you prioritizing feeling grateful and celebrating the baby wins? Okay. And are you actively moving through stagnant energy? And I had this conversation with a few clients, actually. You know, there's a difference between moving slow and not moving at all. And everybody in life, generally, I would say in the West, want to move fast. They want to make money fast. They want to find that husband fast. They want to get into that big house fast, right? Well, we all have our own different paces. Just like as much as I want to F1 race car drive, I don't, but I'm just saying, you know, everywhere. Well, there are going to be certain times where the speed limit is 25, sometimes even 5 if I'm in the parking lot, you know, and then other times I'm going really fast if I'm on the freeway. So I think it's really important to just recognize that, where am I at? What's the speed in my life right now? And if I'm going slow, a lot slower than I want, than I expect, I can still be grateful for that, because at least I'm moving. Okay. Now, if I'm stuck, literally stuck, I'm stale, you know, every day is gopher day, I'm looking at the same people, I'm thinking about the same thing, there's nothing happening. Okay. I can still be grateful in that, because energetically, what is that? That's an invitation for me to just be here. Be here right now. I'm not looking ahead. I'm not looking behind. I'm not even looking sideways. I'm just right here, right now. And there's a lot of treasures in being in that space. And so I think when you're meditating, I think it's just good to kind of ask yourself, not intellectually, but really even how your body feels, right? So sometimes we lose weight very quickly. Sometimes our body's holding on to energy, or maybe in some cases, like there's water retention, or, you know, things like that, where we just feel like a little stagnant energy. Well, how are you actively moving through that? You know, are you moving your body? Are you like fueling your minds with healthier thoughts? Are you interacting with other people, you know, to help you recognize whether you're in your slow state or maybe you're just in this be here right now state, which is how I really want to rephrase stuck, just right here. I'm right here, right now. Finally, have you done your BaZi? Obviously, I'm saying all these things in a very general sense, but I can't speak to you specifically until you get a BaZi update. All right, so let's talk about the stars. The goat month is going to be a clash to all of you with the ox sign, okay? So this is all the ox born in the year, month, day, or hour of the ox. If you have an ox anywhere, you are coming up on a clash. So you can carry a jade amulet of the horse, okay? That can be the BaZi cure that you carry on your person. Like you can put it in your purse or wallet or something like backpack like this. And again, that means you are more vulnerable to that misfortune star in the southeast and that sickness star in the north, okay? So if you're under clash and your room or your house facing happen to be in those directions, that means you're going to be much, much more susceptible, all right? More energetically vulnerable. So you have to take care of the feng shui of your house. So for those who have not taken a BaZi course from me, you will actually learn that out of the 12 animals that we have, just like the 12 zodiac sign, 4 of them are considered earth elements. That's the most element we have. We have 4. All the other elements only have 2, like fire, metal, water, and wood. But earth, we have 4. And out of the 4, the goat is the most powerful one, like I said, okay? And number 2 is the dragon, number 3 is the dog, number 4 is the ox. I'm not gonna get into the technical details on that, but I wanted to show you why we pay attention to the goat. That's because when the goat clashes with the ox, this is typically when even Mother Nature is responding, all right? So if Mother Nature is responding to this energy, imagine the little people, the little person, right? Who is experiencing a clash. In our research, in BaZi research, a lot of major and significant catastrophic earth-related disasters occur when it's related to the goat, okay? Sometimes it's the goat and the dog, sometimes it's the goat with the dragon. It's always the goat is kind of like the link to all of them. And these are things like volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, avalanches, sinkhole, bridge and buildings collapsing, everything that's earth related. So I'll give you some example. You know, the most recent kind of like deadliest avalanche / earthquake that happened in Mount Everest, which kind of shut down the season. They had their highest fatality record. There was a lot of drama related to that. Was in 2015, which was the year of the goat, the month of the dragon, which we already know what the dragon does, guys, right? And it also happened to be on the day of the goat. It's a lot of earth energy, okay? Bam, bam, bam. The Kinzua Bridge is actually here in the United States. The government or state part, I don't know what the agency is, decided that they were not actually going to rebuild and restore this bridge, but this bridge was taken out by a tornado at least 100 miles an hour. And thankfully, the engineers knew that this bridge was kind of faulty. So the year prior to that, they actually stopped using it. So that's a blessing because when the half of the bridge came off, nobody got hurt. Okay, but you can see that was also in the year of the goat, now month of the goat, and day of the goat. Okay, it's a lot of earth. Second, now we have to pay attention to earth penalty. For those who have been following me for a while, taken a class, maybe you've been very faithful to your BaZi sessions, often would hear me talk about earth penalty. And the goat, we always have to talk about earth penalty. And penalty, earth penalty in particular. So there are many different types of penalties, okay? But out of all of those penalties, earth penalty is the most tragic, the most dangerous, the most heart-wrenching, and the most common. Yes, I said the most common. There are a lot of people with BaZi charts that have earth penalty, like they have the whole string of the earth penalty, or they're very susceptible to the earth penalty. So we're going to dissect what earth penalty means. And the reason why this penalty is very serious, because it takes 3 animals. Generally in a clash, right? When we look at clash, it takes 2 animal signs, no big deal. Nobody is immune to it. But for earth penalty, it takes 3 animals to come together. So it's much harder to get. But like I said, some people are already born with certain types of configuration in their BaZi charts, just part of their destiny. And so they are more receptive to different types of scenarios. So for you guys, anybody watching this, if you have the ox or the goat, or ox and the dog, anywhere in your BaZi chart, maybe you have a goat, maybe you have an ox, dog, any type of combo, that means you could be susceptible to earth penalty. Okay, so you just remember that's the formula for earth penalty. Okay, so let's look at so a lot of people always ask me, like, what are some examples of earth penalties? So I can just give you some highlights. Now, this is not a BaZi course, so I'm going to go through them very quickly. So I've talked about Malala a lot. Okay, we know her. She is actually the youngest Nobel Peace Prize. But earth penalty can instigate enemies. Okay, now in her case, she obviously is in a very kind of vulnerable position in her society and what she's fighting for, whatever, right? So her enemies are everywhere, and because she's a public figure, she is a target. Now, for little people, and I don't mean that in a mean way, I'm just saying regular folk, you know, enemies can be a competitor, right? A friend who's really not a friend. Maybe they're out to copy you, out to get you, whatever, okay? Just enemies. They can be small. They can be really, really big. Now, you can see in Malala's chart, she was born in the year of the ox and the month of the goat. So this girl already has 2 of the 3. And back in 2012, which by the way was the year of the dragon, all right? The dragon keeps coming up. But during the month of the dog, so during that whole month that year, she basically has that earth penalty. And that's when the assassination attempt occurred. She was shot in the head. Now, she was only 15 years old at that time, so she would have been in this luck cycle between the age of 9 to 19, and that was during the luck of the monkey, which is Malala's nobleman. You see? How many times have I talked about these things? How like penalty shows up, nobleman shows up, okay? So it doesn't cancel each other. Things happen, but you may be able to overcome it with the nobleman. My concern for her, if she continues in this path, when she turns 29, she will enter that 10-year earth penalty, right? So I'm not sure, she might be already, no, she's not quite there yet, but so it will remain to be seen, right, what happens. But that's why we try to understand these incidents that happen. We always pay attention. When I tell you this is a preview, or I'm trying to tell you this is going to be a clue, right? Everything is connected. And so if the dog month in that dragon year is showing a preview of that, of enemy really going after her, then how much more serious is that when it's 10 years? Okay. Then obviously, earth penalty also create turmoil, chaos, hardship, right? So this is Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister in Israel currently. You see in his BaZi chart, he has born in the year of the ox and the month of the dog. That means his whole life, this guy is just waiting for the goat. Well, we already know, if you've been following the news, there's some turmoil, some conflict that's already happening, right? And the whole conflict began in October of 2023, which if you were to look back on my YouTube videos back then, I said that October 2023 would be a preview to 2024. Okay, so a lot of that is everything is tied. Well, when we come into the month of the goat, he will have the earth penalty. Not to mention the goat and the ox have a clash energy. Okay, so clash, penalty, and then earth is his unfavorable element. So it's kind of like a trifecta. Now he's in good luck for the most part. Currently, this is not a nobleman, but 74 to 84 is okay. It's not the best. My only concern is that this 10-year luck is also a clash, because this is a tiger and a monkey 10-year clash. And if you guys paid attention to my talks, this is also a fire penalty. So he, in the month of July, he's not only going to have earth penalty, but he's also going to have fire penalty, which is the tiger, monkey, and snake. And fire is also not a favorable element for him. Okay, so we'll see what goes on. Again, he's in a very influential, powerful position, right? So again, we're all energy beings. We share our energy, right? So it's like, maybe it's time to just hide. I don't know. Now, earth penalty also affects our health, right? Because it's earth-related diseases. Remember, earth is the stomach, the pancreas, the immune system, muscles, the cells of the body. There are so many examples of people with different types of cancer, tumors, when it comes to earth penalty. Again, this is not a BaZi course, but for those who have completed the BaZi course know we've gone through. And I personally probably have over 120 real life examples of public figures with cancer diagnoses of some sort with the earth penalty. Now, in this case, this is Nick Jonas. Okay, you see he was born on the day of the goat and the hour of the ox. So that means his whole life, he's just waiting for the dog, the doggy, right? Well, guess what? Every 12 days is a dog day. Every 12 months is a dog month. Every 12 years is the dog year. So that's why he's much more sensitive, more susceptible to those types of things. But you see, when he was a kid, his first luck pillar between the age of 8 to 18, he entered into the luck of the dog. So this is a 10-year earth penalty, and he almost died at the age of 13 when he was first diagnosed with diabetes, okay? So earth penalty can affect health, all right? So it affects, what do you call this? It creates turmoil, right? It enemies rise, it affects health. What else? Scandal, right? We all know about Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton. You see that Monica Lewinsky, there's an ox, there's a goat. Well, her affair with Bill Clinton actually happened when she was like 22, 23 years old. Okay, so she would have been in this luck cycle, which is the luck of the rooster. The rooster is her peach blossom. Guys, do you start to see? Have you been following what I'm saying? Peach blossom, love, okay? But love sometimes is not always a good thing if they're married and they're the president of the United States. So, but she did encounter a romantic relation. Appropriate or inappropriate doesn't matter, right? Because remember I said before, the elements don't judge if you're doing good or bad. It just comes. So she was influenced by peach blossom, so she wants to fall in love, or she has the encounter. So how many times when I've talked with my clients and they're like, I want to fall in love, and then I look at the chart, I'm like, I don't know. Anyways, I digress. But the whole Scandamaroo did not come out until she turned 25. And 25, she enters into that 10-year penalty. You know, a lot of sex scandal, a lot of like inappropriate things, including race stuff, relationship stuff. A lot of them came out in 2018. It was like 2017 going into 2018. It was part of the Me Too movement, because 2017 was a peach blossom year going into the dog year, which was 2018. And a lot of people have earth penalty. And so here you go. If you do negative, bad things in secret, when the earth penalty shows up, because earth penalty is bad luck, that means they will come to surface. And I have so many examples. The guy who owns Papa John's, Bill Cosby, Kevin Spacey, so many. The Alice Mack, you know, the actress with like the cult, you know, she's recruiting people to the cult. All of that. Those are all earth penalties. Okay, so scandal. And then, of course, we have accidents. Okay, earth penalty accident. And this is Marco Siffredi. He was a French mountaineer. He summited Mount Everest, but the day that he decided to descend, they never found him again. They never located his body, whatever. And it happened in the hour of the goat. I don't know what time he was born, so I don't know if this is the dog or if it went into the dog hour. Like maybe he was able to descend for like, you know, however long he was there. And then maybe the dog, when the dog hour started, something happened. Okay, now earth penalty accident. This is the Princess Diana, right? When her car got smashed into the tunnel. The tunnel is like a mountain. There's plenty of examples that I can't think of right now, but yes, it's also accident, but earth-related accidents. So cars falling into sinkholes, airplane or helicopters crashing into mountains, multi-vehicle accidents on the road, bridge collapsing and you're on the bridge, like your car's on the bridge, like this. These also occur, all right, in the earth penalty for accidents. And then finally, of course, it affects our relationships, okay? Yes, Pretty Woman has a whole earth penalty. See, she has, oops. Can you see what I'm looking at? Hold on, I'm actually fixing my screen here. Can you see what I'm showing? Hold, please.
No.
No.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to relabel this. She was born in the year of the goat, month of the dog, day of the ox. So this woman has all three, alrighty? And if y'all remember, post Mystic Pizza, Pretty Woman, you know, she made all those like amazing rom-coms, Sleeping with the Enemy, Runaway Bride, like all of those movies. She was very successful career-wise, but there was a saying, beautiful woman, but unlucky in love. And she had a revolving door of men. And she could have had any men, all the men that she wanted, because she was a pretty woman. But that was at the peak of her career, you know, between the age of 24 to 34. And that was actually the luck of the ox. Again, I didn't label that, but that's the ox. So that ox is going to trigger that earth penalty. That's why she had a lot of failed relationships, a lot of betrayal, a lot of broken promises, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Julia Roberts today has been married to Danny Moder for over 20 years, but she has not been able to get out of the rumor mill of her marriage, okay? Rumor has it, and I think it's been confirmed, that while they are dedicated parents to their children and they remain married, they actually don't live together. He lives somewhere else. So even though it doesn't mean you can't enter into a relationship, it just means there's some dysfunction in the relationship. And I'll give you an example, a crazy example. I have several clients with earth penalty that are actually in open marriages, okay? It's very, very private. But again, it's not like your typical fairy tale, you know, love, blah, whatever you want to call it. So that's how earth penalty can also affect relationships. Now for her, she's probably like, well, it is what it is. So it's part of the acceptance that you have to come to terms with. Now, earth penalty can happen in any part of life. I'm just giving you a highlight, some examples and how it can impact you. Obviously, any of these, whether it's accident, relationship, or scandal, it's going to create anxiety, worry, sleepless nights, sickness, headaches, migraines, right? Pit in your stomach, all of those things. So that's the energy of earth penalty. We don't joke around with earth penalty. And no, earth penalty can never be a good thing. And for someone like Julia Roberts that has 3 of these animal signs, that means at any given moment, her earth penalty is triggered. That means every ox day, every goat day, every dog day, she feels that interior discomfort. Okay. Now she has a reputation in Hollywood. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm just saying that's an example. So these are some dates to watch out for during the month of the goat, especially if you have a clash or you are susceptible to earth penalty. So take a snapshot, write these down, and it's really good, for example, to journal these dates and record your mood, your interactions, because then you're giving yourself the opportunity to develop like a database of knowledge that's going to be really helpful for you. And if you can bring that into your BaZi session, then it's much more tangible for us to really dissect it. And I can help you develop, a plan and how to navigate those particular times. Now, it's interesting. The goat is very, very scary. And the goat is the only animal sign out of the 12 that is a nobleman to 3 types of elements. And that is yang metal, yang wood, and yang earth. Remember that the dragon and the dog, there's no nobleman. Remember 2024, the dragon year, no nobleman. The dog, no nobleman. Okay. So that means the other 9 animal signs is a nobleman to 2 elements. All right. Everybody's got like 2, but the goat is the only one that has 3. It's almost like a joke, like the universe or the God is throwing us a bone because it knows that the goat is intense and scowy. And so it's like, we're going to give more people an opportunity to have noblemen. Okay. So if you're born in the year that ends with a 048, okay, then July is your nobleman month, or you have to look at your BaZi chart, yang earth or yang wood or yang metal. Okay, July. And if you were born on the day of yang earth, yang wood, or yang metal, then July is your nobleman. So if you have a penalty, you'll get over it, basically. Anyways, if you're interested in investing in your self-development by way of BaZi, here's an opportunity for you to make that commitment, okay? Or if you want to gift the gift of BaZi to someone, certainly you can purchase a gift certificate. It's always every time people buy gift certificates, I'm always so touched because it's such a generous gift, It's so much better than buying candles and whatever, those things. It's like you can buy candles anytime, but to have a BaZi reading is just so meaningful and so personal. So I'm very, very grateful for those who have done that and entrusted me in that journey. So I hope to see you next year for our in-person BaZi training. You can see that on my website. I know my time is almost up, so I'm going to breeze through this last piece. We have to talk about the spleen. So in Chinese medicine, the spleen is actually considered an important organ, which is kind of funny again, because in Western medicine, they just remove your spleen, just like you can live off of 1 kidney, you know what I mean? They just like remove stuff like, oh yeah, you can live without your spleen. But the spleen's function in Chinese medicine, like the way the TCM looks at the spleen, is actually so incredibly vital, all right? And I'm not going to get into it because I don't have enough time, but like it helps to regulate the blood, and we call it the transporter. Like it's the vehicle that moves nutrients all throughout the body. It moves chi, you know, energy, life force all throughout the body. So can you imagine if you don't have a spleen? You actually have so many issues. Okay, so couple telltale signs of your spleen needing a little bit of help is if you're feeling a little bit, you know, low energy, you have poor digestion, you're just wanting sugar sweets because earth is a sweet taste. Again, something off in your gut, all right? You're holding on to energy, so that fluid retention. Poor posture, again, it's related to our muscles in the body. Oop, brain fog. That really should say brain fog, okay? Maybe I was having brain fog when I was writing this. Poor, you know, focus or memory loss, a little bit of like, what, kind of, you know, forgetfulness. You're overthinking things. You bruise very easily because when you bruise easily, you know, we say that has something to do with iron, maybe your ferritin, you know, that's blood related, okay? And then you have cold extremities, like cold feet and hands, even though the rest of your body is hot. So these are just some symptoms that your spleen needs help. If you ever go to a Chinese medicine doctor or an acupuncturist, they're always talking about the spleen, all right? Everything from when they look at the color and the coating of your tongue, they're actually looking also how the white coat or the structure, your saliva, the color, all of that in your tongue, it actually also denotes what's going on in your spleen. So just a few yummy reminders. Again, in Chinese medicine, we focus on cooked foods. I know when it's hot, a lot of people just want to eat salad. All right. But remember that your stomach works harder when you eat raw food and cold food because your stomach has to work 10 times harder to warm up the food first before it can break it down, break down the enzymes. So do your stomach a favor and actually put warm cooked food into your belly so your stomach doesn't have to work excess, okay, extra hard. Eating lean proteins, you know, I call them grounding foods, the food that grow from the ground is also very important. And also adding some warming spices like ginger, cinnamon, and cardamom. Again, all of these things like broths, they've been scientifically proven in Western medicine and other, you know, modalities that they are, even in Ayurvedic medicine, are very, very good for the body. So again, this is just to give you a little reminder, okay? So stop eating too many salads. I'm not saying don't eat salad, but maybe have a salad with chicken, you know, cooked chicken, or salad with turkey, something like that. Don't just eat plain salad. And take care of your spleen through your lifestyle. Again, you know, we have to have these different practices to make sure we're taking care of our mind, body, and spirit. And that's it, folks. I think I did it in 1 hour. The hour went by so fast. I'm going to put my video. Should I put my video? I don't know. Too scary looking. But anyway, I wish you all a fantastic summer wherever you are. We're going to reconvene on August 5th for the monkey. And the monkey is going to be really cool because this is the start of the second half of the snake year. So a lot to talk about that then. But I wish you well. If you have any questions, I'll stay on for a couple of minutes. Otherwise, I hope to see your beautiful faces on Zoom or in person. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.